I had this argument last year with a coworker over honestly something so small I'm embarrassed to even say what it was. But in the moment, I was locked in. I had the facts, I had the receipts, I walked him through the logic step by step, and by the end of it, he was quiet. He had nothing left to say. I won.
Did you, though?
No. No, I did not. Because for the next 3 months, that man made my working life unnecessarily complicated. He never forgot it. He never said anything, but he never forgot it.
You won the argument and lost the person.
Won the argument, lost the person. Dale Carnegie wrote a whole book about that exact mistake in 1936, and we still out here making it every single day.
Welcome to Discourse, where we have a friendly chat about important stuff. I'm Chloe.
And I'm Andre. And look, today's book might be the most practically dangerous book we've ever covered on this show, because the ideas in here are simple. They're almost embarrassingly simple. And that is exactly what makes them so easy to ignore and so devastating when you finally actually use them.
How to Win Friends and Influence People, published in 1936, still one of the best-selling books of all time. There's a reason it has never gone out of print, and today we're going to find out why.
Let's get into it. So Carnegie opens the whole book with a question that sounds simple, but actually hits different when you sit with it. He asks, what is the point of criticism? Like, what do you actually expect to happen when you criticize someone?
The implicit assumption is that they will hear your feedback, recognize their error, feel appropriately sorry, and change their behavior, which is...
Has that ever happened? Like, in the history of people, has anyone ever been criticized and gone, you know what, you're completely right. I am deeply flawed. Let me fix that right now.
Essentially, never, and Carnegie has a remarkable example to make this point. He talks about a man called Two Gun Crowley, notorious criminal, had killed several police officers. During a standoff, surrounded, bleeding out, he writes a letter, and the letter says, "Under this coat beats a weary but kind heart, a heart that would do nobody any harm." This man, in what might be his final moments, is insisting that he is the good guy.
Two Gun Crowley, man who killed multiple cops. I got a kind heart. But here's the wild part. That ain't unusual. That is human. Al Capone described himself as a misunderstood public benefactor. Carnegie's whole point is nobody, and I mean nobody, wakes up believing they are the villain. Everyone has a story where they are justified.
Which is why criticism as a strategy is almost always futile. Carnegie calls it a homing pigeon. No matter what you fire at the other person, it comes back to you, as resentment, as defensiveness, as the slow, quiet withdrawal of their goodwill. And he contrasts this with Abraham Lincoln, who early in his political career nearly got himself killed in a duel over a satirical letter he wrote mocking a political opponent. And Lincoln survived it, and he never, in the rest of his life, publicly criticized another person again.
Lincoln, one of the most powerful men in American history, decided that criticism wasn't worth it. After Gettysburg, General Meade let the Confederate Army escape. Lincoln was furious. He sat down and wrote the man a blistering letter. And then, he never sent it. They found it in his papers after he died, labeled, "Never sent, never signed."
Curiously, because Lincoln understood something that most of us don't, he wrote in the letter itself, and this is Carnegie quoting directly, "To know all is to forgive all." If you truly understood the fear, the exhaustion, the impossible pressure Meade was under, you might write the letter, but you would not send it.
How many things have we sent that we should have just kept in the drafts?
Rather more than I care to admit. So if criticism is the wrong tool, what is the right one? Carnegie's answer rests on what he calls the deepest urge in human nature, and it is not love, it is not safety, it is not even belonging. It is the desire to feel important.
The desire to feel important. And when you first hear that, it can sound a little, vain. Like, is Carnegie really saying everyone just wants their ego stroked?
Something deeper than that. He's saying every human being walking this earth is carrying a hunger to know that their existence matters, that they are seen, that what they think and feel and contribute has value. And that hunger, when it goes unfed, is the root of so much of the conflict and disconnection and bitterness we see in the world.
And Carnegie brings in Charles Schwab, one of the first American executives ever paid $1 million a year. And a reporter asks him, "What are you actually getting paid for?" Because there were engineers and metallurgists at his company who knew way more about steel than he did. And Schwab says, "I'm being paid for my ability to deal with people, to arouse enthusiasm in them." And the way he did it was praise. Genuine, specific, sincere praise.
And Carnegie draws a very important distinction here between appreciation and flattery. Flattery, he says, comes from the teeth out. It is empty. People feel it immediately and it registers as manipulation. But appreciation, real appreciation, comes from the heart out. It means looking at another person and genuinely noticing what is good and fine and true about them and saying so.
He's got this essay, Father Forgets. And I'm gonna be real, this one got me. It's a father writing to his sleeping son. And he's going through all the things he criticized the boy for that day. The towel on the floor, the holes in his socks, the way he ate his food, the way he didn't eat his food. Just constant correction all day, every day. And the father realizes he has been measuring this small child with the yardstick of his own adult years. And the boy, this boy who is just living, who just exists in the spontaneous joy of being a kid, has been made to feel like he is never enough.
And Carnegie uses that to make a point about all of us. How often do we walk through our relationships, our workplaces, our homes, looking for what is wrong rather than what is right? How often do we ration our appreciation as though it is a finite resource and hand out our criticism freely as though it costs us nothing?
When it costs everything over time. Okay, this is the one that I think is the most immediately usable thing in the whole book. Carnegie has this fishing metaphor. He says when he goes fishing, he personally loves strawberries and cream. But fish don't want strawberries and cream. Fish want worms. So if he baits the hook with what he likes, he catches nothing.
Which sounds self-evident when applied to fishing, and yet
we do it constantly. In every conversation, every negotiation, every attempt to get someone to do something, we lead with what we want, our reasons, our needs, our logic. And we are genuinely bewildered when the other person just doesn't bite.
Carnegie has a beautiful small story about a father whose 3-year-old son refuses to eat. The boy is small, the parents are worried, nothing works. So the father stops trying to convince the boy that eating is good for him and starts asking a different question. What does this boy actually want? What the boy wanted was to be big enough to beat up a neighborhood bully. He was 3 and he already had an enemy.
3 years old and already had beef. But the father takes that and says, "You know what makes you strong enough to fight? Eating your mother's food." And the boy ate.
The food didn't change, the logic didn't change. The only thing that changed was whose want was at the center of the conversation. Carnegie argues that the only way to get anyone to do anything, genuinely, sustainably, willingly, is to make them want to do it. Not guilt them, not logic them, not pressure them, make them want it.
And that requires actually being curious about what the other person wants, which sounds obvious and is somehow one of the rarest skills in any room.
Rarer than technical expertise, certainly. Carnegie's thesis, right at the start of the book, is that 85% of financial and professional success comes not from technical knowledge, but from human engineering, the ability to understand and move people. Most of us spend our entire education developing the 15% and wonder why the other 85 feels so hard.
85% from people skills that nobody formally taught us. That's something to sit with.
You know, Carnegie just taught us that the secret to influence is making the other person want the thing. So I'm going to try it right now. If you subscribe to Discourse, you will never again sit in a conversation or a meeting or a difficult moment with someone you love and feel like you have no idea what to do next, because every week we hand you a new framework, a new lens, a new way of seeing people, including yourself. That's not us telling you to subscribe, that's us asking, don't you want that?
Chloe just used Carnegie to sell Carnegie. I am in awe. Hit subscribe, y'all. Back to the book.
Carnegie goes into what he calls the social magics, and the first one is names.
This one is deceptively simple. Carnegie says a person's name is to them the sweetest and most important sound in any language. He references James Farley, who went from a laborer in a brickyard to Postmaster General of the United States, and his secret, he had committed to memory the first and last names of 50,000 people. Not famous people, not powerful people, people.
50,000. And here's what that did for people. When James Farley remembered your name, you felt like you mattered. In a world that mostly treats you like a number, somebody remembered you. That is not a small thing. That is everything.
And the second magic, the one I think is the most counterintuitive, is listening. Not waiting to talk, listening. Carnegie tells a story about a dinner party where he spent the evening with a botanist, and the botanist was extraordinary. Carnegie was genuinely fascinated, so he just listened, asked a few questions, let the man talk. At the end of the evening, the botanist told the host that Carnegie was the most interesting conversationalist he had ever met.
He barely said anything.
He said almost nothing, but he was completely present, and Carnegie distills this into one of the most quietly important sentences in the book. To be interesting, you must be interested. The person who makes you feel like the most fascinating human in the room is not the most articulate person there. It is the person who is most genuinely curious about you.
And think about how rare that is. Think about the last time somebody in a conversation made you feel like they actually wanted to hear what you had to say. Like they weren't waiting for you to finish so they could tell their version. Like they were just in it with you.
How did that person make you feel?
Like $1 million. Like I could talk to them forever.
That is the magic Carnegie is pointing to, and it is available to every single person listening to this right now. It costs nothing, it requires no charm, no wit, no special gift. It requires only the decision to be genuinely curious about the person in front of you.
So we started this episode with me winning an argument and losing a person. And Carnegie has got a full strategy for how to never make that mistake. And it starts with avoid the argument entirely.
He has a wonderful story, a banquet. A guest misattributes a Shakespeare quote, claims it came from the Bible. Carnegie knows the guest is wrong, he knows Shakespeare wrote it. And a friend kicks him under the table. Afterwards, the friend says to him, why prove a man he is wrong? Always avoid the acute angle. And Carnegie says it was one of the most valuable lessons he ever received.
Because, and this is the key thing, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. You can back someone into a corner. You can make them go quiet. But you haven't changed their mind. You've just made them resentful of you.
And what Carnegie suggests instead, particularly when you are the one who is wrong, is to admit it quickly, emphatically, before the other person can say it. He tells the story of being caught by a police officer walking his dog without a muzzle in a park. Before the officer could speak, Carnegie condemned himself so thoroughly that the officer had nothing left to do but be generous. The officer let him go with a warning because Carnegie had already done the work.
He took the bullet out of the gun before it could be fired. Because when you admit your mistake first, you disarm the other person. You satisfy their need to be right. You satisfy their need for justice. And then there's nothing left to fight over.
And then is my favorite story in the entire book. Charles Schwab visits a steel mill that is underperforming. The manager's embarrassed, the workers are defensive, everyone is waiting for the lecture. Schwab asks the day shift foreman simply, casually, how many heats they made today. The foreman says 6. Schwab picks up a piece of chalk, writes a large 6 on the floor, and walks out. Says nothing else.
Oh, that's cold. In the best possible way.
The night shift comes in, sees the 6, asks what it means, gets told, and they cannot let it stand. That night, they make 7 heats, write a 7 on the floor. The day shift comes in, sees it. Within weeks, that mill was outproducing every other plant in the company. Schwab never gave a lecture, never criticized. He just threw down a number and let human nature do the rest.
He understood the game. Carnegie says the way to get the best out of people is to appeal to the game itself, to the desire to excel, to prove something, to win, not through pressure or fear, but through challenge. Give someone something worth competing against, and they will surprise you every time.
So let's land. What Dale Carnegie is really asking of us, beneath all the tactics and the stories and the principles, is a shift in orientation from I-centric to other-centric, from what do I want from this interaction to what does this person need from it? What makes them feel seen? What makes them feel important? What makes them want to show up for you?
And I want to be honest, the first time I read some of these principles, I had a reaction. Like, is this just manipulation? Is Carnegie teaching us to be nice as a strategy? And the answer is no, because he's very clear. Every single principle in this book only works if it's sincere. Fake appreciation is flattery, and people smell it immediately. Real appreciation is a gift. The whole point is to genuinely, actually start caring about the people around you, not as a technique, as a way of life.
Carnegie ends the book with a line that I keep returning to. He says, "We shall pass this way but once. Any good, therefore, that we can do, or any kindness that we can show, let us do it now, for we shall not pass this way again." This book is 90 years old, and that line has lost nothing.
Nothing. So here's our question for you today, and it's a personal one. Think of one person in your life right now, someone you interact with regularly, and ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you made them feel genuinely important? Not complimented, not thanked efficiently, but truly seen. Drop that person's initials in the comments. You don't have to name them. Just acknowledge them to yourself. That's where it starts.
And if today gave you something, even just one small shift in how you'll approach a conversation this week, share this episode, because there is someone in your world who is exhausted from being misunderstood, from relationships that feel like constant friction, from wondering why people don't respond to them the way they hope. Carnegie wrote this book for that person. Send it to them.
How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. Read it and then actually try it, because knowing it and doing it are two very different things.
Quite different indeed.
I'm Andre.
I'm Chloe.
And this is Discourse.
Stay kind, stay curious, and we'll see you next time.